Sympathy weight isn't real. And if you're a dad and you've gained weight during your wife's pregnancy or directly after your child was born, in this video, I'm going to explain to you exactly why, although it's true that testosterone can decrease anywhere from 25 to 30% in new fathers. Although it's true that the baby's pheromones and your wife's pheromones can have an impact on your testosterone levels. And although it's true that yes, having a child absolutely places a new demand on your ability to manage time. And if you don't have the skills of managing your health and fitness, that decrease in total available time, along with the stress of taking care of a human child, although that can affect your health and fitness decisions, they're not excuses. So in this video, I'm not just going to call you guys out. I'm actually going to show you exactly how I, as a new father of a beautiful 7-week-old daughter, have been able to maintain my weight since she was born. I remember when she was born, I was thinking of all these stories that parents would tell me that sounded something like, Gabe, just wait till you have kids. You will finally understand. And I thought this was funny, especially coming from my clients, because most of my clients in our fitness coaching company are between the ages of 45 and 65. So these guys are dads. Even these guys sometimes, even when they would admit their own mistakes and take ownership, they would sometimes still poke those jokes of like, Gabe, wait till you have kids. They'd realize that that's not really a valid excuse as soon as you start working with us, of course. But I thought it was funny because there's this narrative that pervades society that I don't think is actually truly based on what's really going on. I think that the narrative in and of itself is what creates the circumstance. So there's absolutely data that shows that fathers, independent of age demographics here, based on longitudinal data and studies done on groups of over 10,000 men, fathers, independent of age, will see an increase in BMI, an increase in body mass index, specifically when their children are born. There's also data that will compare the example of resident fathers as compared to non-resident fathers. That means that resident fathers is a father who's present. That's a father who is in this study communicating that they're having at least 3 hours of daily child interaction with their child. So present fathers versus non-present fathers, we see that the present fathers have the increases in BMI, have the increases in body weight. There's data that shows that. There's data that shows that they have decreases in testosterone from as much as 25% to 30%, which is also concerning. That is true. It is true that this does happen. It is true that most men gain weight when they have children. In fact, I remember having a conversation with my own father, who unfortunately passed away at 55 years old due to complications with his diabetes. And I remember one day sitting him down and asking him, Dad, when did your health start to fall apart? And what he said to me, almost jokingly, was, son, my health started to fall apart the day you were born. And he was joking when he said that. But the reality is this: as much as it can be a joke that most guys get dad bods when they have kids, as much as that can be a joke, the idea of a dad bod, the pattern of men gaining quote unquote sympathy weight, is a matter of life and death. It is a literal matter of life and death. And so that's why I find it important to present you this information. What I'm going to be doing in this video is I'm going to be talking through what is really going on beneath the surface. Because like I said, there are real effects to male testosterone levels when kids are born, significant impacts on male testosterone levels when kids are born. And testosterone absolutely affects your body fat storage processes and your muscle gaining processes. But there's something more important going on deeper beneath the surface that I believe is the real root cause of sympathy weight, quote unquote sympathy weight, which we'll just use as a term to refer to the weight that men gain when their wives are pregnant and when the kids come. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you the 3 big focuses that I have as a new father that have led to the fruit of controlling my body in a way that is holy and honorable. Like the Bible says that we should learn to control our own bodies. in a way that is holy and honorable. And rapidly gaining weight when our wives are pregnant and when we have children is not controlling our bodies. So that is not something that I view as holy and honorable. No longer disciplining the body because there are other responsibilities. No longer controlling our gluttony because we're stressed and tired. I don't see those as excuses for treating the body in a way that is unholy and unhonorable. So I'm going to give you guys some advice, some big focuses to take with you from this video, so that whether you gain weight when you had a child, you'll be able to lose it, or whether you have a baby coming, you'll be able to make sure you don't gain weight as your wife's pregnant and as that baby comes. And if you're actively in that newborn season, like I am, you can start to make some changes to how you think about your body, to how you operate with your food decisions at home in a way that is simple and in a way that fits with newborn life. I promise you, I've got my newborn and my wife and a lactation consultant outside this door right now. So I'm in the middle, I'm in the thick of it with you guys. So this isn't me, just lecturing you as a young 25-year-old guy saying, "Man, get it together, old man." Right? No, this is a father. I'm here with you. I'm somebody who will call you higher, but I also understand the struggle. Okay, and I care deeply about this, given how I saw it impact my own father. So let's get into it. What happens when men have children? Okay, because like I mentioned earlier, there's a study done over the period of 20 years on 10,000 men that shows that becoming a dad predicted weight gain while non-dads actually lost weight. Okay, so most of the longitudinal data on large populations of men when it comes to weight gain shows a strong correlation with age and weight gain, which is another narrative I think we just tell ourselves that leads to certain actions that ends up justifying a narrative, but that's neither here nor there. What this study found is that even independent of age, of normal fathers between the ages of like 20 and 30, they found that fathers, independent of age, gained more weight than other groups of non-fathers who were of the same age. So there's something specific about fatherhood that is strongly correlated and even predictive of weight gain. This second study that was really interesting showed that a comparison between groups of present fathers and also absent fathers. So literally, the way that it phrased it, let's see, is that resident fathers and non-resident fathers. Okay, resident fathers considered fathers who would report at least 3 hours of interaction with the child per day. A present father. Okay, so it's interesting because what it showed is that present father would have as much of anywhere between a 25% drop upwards of a 30+% drop immediately in their testosterone levels after childbirth. Okay. And then the absent fathers would report less than a 0.01% drop in their testosterone levels, which seems unfair, right? But that brings up the question of, okay, there's not something magical about childbirth. There's not something magical about pregnancy that makes men decrease their testosterone and get fat. There's something else going on. Okay, there's something else going on. The last thing I want to cover quickly here is that you'll hear a lot of people talk about how, oh, the pheromones that change when your wife is pregnant and the pheromones that change when your baby is born, those affect your testosterone levels, and those lower testosterone levels end up leading to you gaining weight. Now, I don't want to say that the pheromones have nothing to do with it. Pheromones are absolutely a real thing. And if you've ever had a child, you know what I'm talking about. I actually remember when my wife was pregnant, specifically noting that she had a little bit of a different scent to her. And those pheromones can be used to signal different behaviors in animals. It's absolutely something that's real. And I specifically actually remember after my wife gave birth that she immediately smelled different. And what was interesting is after my wife gave birth, she started to smell more like what she smelled like before pregnancy. I remember walking past her on the second or third day after our child was born and saying like, "Whoa, you smell like my girlfriend." And of course, that was referencing her when we were dating. But there's absolutely this impact of pheromones. That's a real thing. However, it is extremely difficult to blame pheromones as the main results for behavior change that leads to weight gain, because behavior change that leads to weight gain there's so many factors at play. There are so many factors at play. In fact, it's hard to substantiate the claim that pheromones actually cause a behavior change, right? And just to paint this picture for you guys, pheromones, these things that we pick up through our scent, that they cause behavior change. We can experience the impact of pheromones as human beings, but still make a conscious decision to act in a way that those pheromones have motivated, or to not act in a way that those pheromones have motivated. I'll give you another example with my wife. When we were dating, I loved the way, and I still do, but I loved the way that my wife smelled, right? And a lot of you guys can relate to this. We're gonna get super real here, right? And I found it really interesting how when we were dating, if we're ever in situations or circumstances that maybe we should not have been as an unmarried couple, and I was laying next to my wife in bed or something like that, next to my girlfriend at the time in bed or something like that, and I would smell her, just that smell would like completely change my biology. And it would make me feel like my veins were going to come out of my hands if I didn't do something, right? So there's definitely an effect of pheromones. Now, the reason I'm giving you that example is because even in those circumstances, regardless of how motivated I was to a certain behavior, just purely based on my biology, I still had the conscious decision whether to take that behavior or not. So even if your wife's pheromones have an impact on you while she's pregnant and when the baby comes, even if the baby's pheromones have an impact on you in some way, shape, or form, you still have the ability to consciously decide what your behavior is going to be in spite of those pheromones. So let's not blame the pheromones, right? I certainly can't look back at the times I was imperfect in my purity with my wife during our dating and say it was the pheromones, right? No, that was me. That was me and my sinful nature, right? That's what that was. So all that being said, let's talk about this, because there are a few key things that I really have maintained focus on through my daughter's birth that have helped me maintain my body weight. And the first main thing that I have maintained a ton of focus on through my daughter's birth is the fact that I uphold a sense of being healthy and fit as part of my identity. I don't hold the belief that being healthy and fit is a luxury. I don't hold the belief that being healthy and fit is, what's the word I'm looking for, is vain, okay? Especially as a Christian. I don't hold the belief that being healthy and fit is optional. I view being healthy and fit as a natural extension of who I am, as part of who God created me to be, and as an integral part of my role as a husband and father. And so because I hold that belief when I'm faced with decisions about what I'm going to do with my food and with my exercise throughout the pregnancy and throughout my child being born, because my priority is to be a great husband and father in those circumstances, and I have the belief that being healthy and fit is aligned with being a great healthy and father, when I want to be a good healthy and a good father and husband, that means I'm going to make sure I'm taking care of my fitness. I had accumulated enough evidence over the course of my life and through the environment that surrounds me and through the normal, honestly, just the reading of the Bible that I do every single day in my relationship with Christ. My brain has accumulated enough information to make decisions that improve my health and fitness, because I've concluded that they're in alignment with being a healthy or a good, present, and effective husband and father. It's part of my identity. It's part of who I am. And so the most important thing that you guys need to do is build this sense of identity that you are healthy and fit. If you haven't done that yet and you were expecting a child, you need to do it now, ASAP, right now, because you don't want to be found in a tempting situation with your back against the wall and a weak sense of identity around your health and fitness. Identity is going to be the only thing that holds you strong when your back's against the wall. I'll give you an example that you might relate a bit more to if you don't feel like you have this identity of the fit and healthy father. One thing that you probably do have the identity of, if you're a husband and you're a father, hopefully, is that you are a faithful husband and father, is that you are not a husband and father who cheats. Hopefully you have that identity. Now, what this means is that even if you were faced with a situation that tempted you to cheat, let's say you're literally walking down the sidewalk and a very attractive naked woman threw herself onto you and said, "Take me," right? Imagine that taking place. Imagine what your reaction would be in that circumstance. A tempting, objectively tempting circumstance. Beautiful naked woman throws herself on you and says, "Take me." There's no one around to see. What would your honest reaction be in that circumstance? Hopefully, depending on who's watching this, hopefully your reaction would be no, right? You'd probably push her off and run away. And maybe you look back to make sure she wasn't like, being trafficked or something like that, right? But you wouldn't cheat on your wife even in that tempting circumstance because you are not the man who cheats. You are faithful. Being faithful to your wife, being committed to your wife is part of your identity. So it stands strong even in the face of temptation. This is the same thing that we need to have with our health and fitness. Even in the face of temptation, when I've been extremely tired, when there's been no food prepared, when I didn't know what to eat, when I just honestly had stress and wanted something tasty to deal with that stress, my identity has held me strong. It's empowered me in those moments to make decisions that are in alignment with being a good father, which for me means also being healthy and fit. So your identity is going to hold you strong in those moments of temptation. And if you need even more justification for this, identity, sense of who you are is what held Jesus strong in his moments of being tempted. And the most significant example of Jesus being tempted in the Bible, in my opinion, apart from the torture and crucifixion and him, I guess, technically having the ability to step down from that cross, right? One of the most significant examples is when he was in the woods for 40 days and 40 nights fasting. The Bible actually says in this passage that Jesus went into the wilderness to be tempted, which is interesting. So Jesus intentionally put himself in this tempting situation, and he's tired, he's hungry, he's starving, physically, completely vulnerable. And Satan's first attack, his A game here, knowing how vulnerable Jesus is in this moment, his first attack is to tempt Jesus, not just with food, which is another interesting correlation. So, I mean, if you think that, you can resist the temptation of food without a strong sense of identity, think again, okay? But Satan also tempts Jesus with his identity, right? He says, "If you are the Son of God, then turn these stones to bread." So he first tempts him with his identity. If you're really the Son of God, he asks him who he is. He tries to pervert his idea of who he is. And Jesus, of course, with a certainty in who he is able to stay strong and then overcome that practical temptation of the food in the face of his having fasted for 40 days. And so this is not just an example of how this works biblically. This is a very practical prescription of how you should handle that temptation for food, especially when you are tired and stressed after baby being born. Okay, you should literally do the same exact thing here. You should ask yourself who you are. Who am I? Who does God say I am? In that moment where you have the option of ordering some Uber Eats or eating something really crappy because you're tired and stressed, ask yourself, who am I? Am I the father that gives into temptation, that goes to food for comfort instead of turning to the Holy Spirit for comfort? Am I the father who lacks emotional control? Am I the father who lacks the virtue of honoring his body, who is now going to impart onto these children the idea that it's okay to sabotage their bodies just when things get hard? Okay, am I that guy, or am I the father who sets the example for discipline and drive for my family? Am I the father who will show my daughter what a strong man looks like? Am I the father who will show my daughter what it means to honor her body because this vehicle is sacred and is not just a piece of meat to be used for pleasure? Who are you? And if you can answer that question in the correct way, of course, then that's going to hold you strong in the face of temptation. That has been my saving grace, is that sense of identity, is understanding who God says I am. And by the way, God does say that this spirit of self-control is a fruit that he has given you by the Holy Spirit. And that is something that absolutely applies to you not being slave to gluttony. even in the face of temptation. Okay. And so I want you to consider this. You have to have a strong sense of who you are. You have to have a powerful identity of a healthy and fit father when that baby comes, so that you can stand strong in the face of that temptation. That's the first thing. Okay. Second thing that you need to consider, second thing I did, this is more practical, is that you need to prepare. Okay. The Bible also says that for lack of a plan, a nation falls. We need to prepare. One of the things that my wife and I did throughout her pregnancy before the baby came was we prepared a bunch of pre-cooked meals. We ordered a bunch of pre-cooked meals, and we even bought a separate freezer for our home to store these pre-cooked meals. So it removed the quote unquote stumbling blocks of not having something healthy prepared when we were faced with those circumstances that were objectively more difficult than if baby wasn't there, right? And there have been multiple times where I've had to prepare these pre-prepared meals with like a baby in one hand, and I'm putting the meal in the microwave with another hand. That's still difficult, but it's made it so much easier than if we didn't have anything prepared. If I had to, cook an entire meal from scratch with the baby in one hand, right? So prepare. When I say we have prepared like crazy, again, we are 7 weeks in, going on 8 weeks, and we still have frozen meals that we are eating. And I actually ended up cooking a completely, from scratch meal for me and my wife for date night last night. Some filet mignon, some bread, some onions. And it kind of felt nice, I'll be honest, to just have a completely fresh meal. But that's neither here nor there. It's been great to have those pre-prepared meals since baby might be pooping and screaming and mom might need a rest while you are staying fit and healthy. Okay, so prepare. Last thing I will say is that I definitely recognize that I have an advantage over most guys when it comes to maintaining health and fitness with a newborn. And that is the advantage that I study kinesiology, exercise science for years, that this is literally my profession, right? I'm a literal professional at health and fitness and maintaining body weight. It is what I am paid to do, and it is an integral part of my God-given mission. So I know what are the most effective ways to maintain your body weight, even when you're not working out, let's say 2 hours a day, like the average gym bro who doesn't have any kids, right? So the main thing that I want to make sure you take from this is when you are planning your exercise in any season, we're going to have limited time. And even if you don't have kids, you might be in a season of limited time anyway. And again, to be frank, this is just the best way to train anyway, even when you have an abundance of time, because you're just going to get more out of your time if you train this way. But the most effective, most efficient use of your time for your exercise is going to be resistance training. The reason resistance training is such an efficient use of time is because the amount of muscular stimulus that you get on a per time basis is so much higher than something like running or something like pickleball, even not that there's anything wrong with that, definitely higher than something like CrossFit or some kind of, the HIIT classes that people do nowadays. You definitely want to be lifting weights. And even if you can't lift weights, something I did was I got myself a set of resistance bands that I can hook up basically to like a door that had handles and cuffs, and that made it really easy to get in some solid resistance training. But resistance training is going to be the highest ROI use of your time when you have kids and you're maintaining your health and fitness. The cool thing too about resistance training is it builds muscle, whereas something like running just burns calories. But resistance training builds muscle. The reason that's good is because if you take an hour of running and compare it to an hour of lifting, you will burn more calories in the short term during that run because it's more intense cardio-wise compared to that hour of lifting. But the cool thing is with the lifting, you do still burn calories and you build muscle. And the cool thing about that muscle is the most metabolically active tissue on your body. What that means is your muscle burns calories 24/7, 365. So you did the lift, you burned calories doing it. Now you built muscle, which is an asset on your body that burns calories 24/7, 365. So you're continuously increasing your normal calorie burn by building muscle as opposed to if you were just running. And the other blessing of building muscle is you look good, okay? And it strengthens your bone and it strengthens your joints. So you say you want to be around, for your grandkids, you need to have muscle to be able to do that. It's one of the number one predictors of longevity on top of just, reducing body fat mass. So you need to have muscle. Other incredible benefit I will tell you of having muscle as a dad is that your wife is going to like you when you have muscle. To say that your physical attraction has nothing to do with, it doesn't really matter in your marriage. It's just another one of these idiotic narratives that men just use to justify their behavior. It's ridiculous. Okay. I'm not going to give you guys details at all, of course, but I can tell you firsthand that being ripped, not just not overweight, but ripped, is an asset in my marriage, and is again another thing that's in alignment with being a good husband and father. Because guess what? Because I'm ripped, my wife is excited to have intimacy with me. And because she's excited to have intimacy with me, and we get to enjoy that together and love each other in that way together, in a way that is pleasurable and honorable in our marriage, that energizes me to love on my daughter more. And if you're a dad, you can absolutely confirm this. The way that you love on your children when intimacy is great, it's incredible, right? You show up and you're just like, I love you. I can spend all day with you, whatever you need, right? You're walking around the house with a skip in your step when intimacy is great, right? So I want you to consider that that is important. It's going to be an asset to your marriage, and it's going to be an asset to your children if dad is physically attractive. If dad is hot, if mom thinks dad is hot, that's the only woman who needs to think dad's hot. But that matters. So keep that in mind. But guys, that is it. 3 big things to prevent that quote unquote sympathy weight gain are a strong sense of identity and understanding that being healthy and fit is part of your call as a husband and father. Being prepared with healthy meals, have those on hand. You're just putting yourself in such a back against the wall position if you don't prepare. And number 3, resistance train, resistance train, resistance train. Not that there's anything wrong at all with running or other forms of cardio, but resistance training is the most time efficient thing you can do to take care of your body. And when you are limited on time, doing efficient things with your time is only of increasing importance. So keep that all in mind, guys. And guys, let's change this narrative of the dad bod being a normal thing. I'm tired of it. It's disgusting, quite frankly. It's annoying. And let's stop this crap. All right. Our daughters are worth more. Our sons are worth more, and our wives are worth more too. And guys, let's be real. You guys are worth more too. All right. You are worth more than just having a dad bod. Jesus loves you. He died for you. He disciplined his body for you, and you can take part in his attitude by disciplining your body too. That's it. God bless.